I'm pinching myself to think of various things like getting to do 64 shows with Michael, Shannon, Ruth Wilson.
And how did acting come into your life?
There just happened to be some sign as I was walking around my campus saying, come audition for this film. I remember I was so nervous, I couldn't stop shaking the paper. I had the sides. They kept saying, maybe we can just put it down. And I was like, I just need it because I can't remember the line. And I felt so bad. At the end of the class, I remember telling the teacher, yeah, I'm ready for your intermediate class. And she was like, I think you may be best served behind the camera.
You moved to LA at some point. You lived in LA, right?
It seemed like almost everybody was an actor, like about 95%. The cops, the person who cut my hair, my dentist.
You're in Silo.
I worked largely with Common or Rashid. I knew him from John Wick. He seemed to just love the filmmaking process as much as, and look at it with the same wonder I could, which surprised me considering how much he's done.
How is The Batman?
That was a surreal one, and it also gave me a lot of appreciation for what you may go through to shoot a rain scene. It's such an up and down industry. I realized the acting is, I call it like fishing. It can come and it can go. If I'm happy fishing, then I try to be happy with that. I did a film that ended up having the title Midgets VS Mascots. We didn't know that would be the title. And I feel this thwack on my head. This other castmate had hit me on the side of the head with a piece of cow dung. Why am I here? How can I be here?
Hi, my name is Andrei Rogozin. This is Beyond Real Talk, and my guest today is actor Akie Kotabe.
Hello.
Hey. Dude, look, since we met, I noticed at some point that I see you on my screen more and more.
Is it more and more?
Yeah, because I've seen you in a Marvel series, you were in The Batman, you were in Mad Men, I just watched it just recently, and I'm like, oh, Akie is there again. And I see you all the time, and I wanted to speak to you for a long time, and finally we're doing this. So thank you for being here.
No, I was gonna say, I guess it's because once you film it, it's in the internet forever. So the longer you do it, the more chance there is for people to see you and stuff. But
yeah. I want to talk to you about your journey.
Cool.
You were born in America.
Mm-hmm. In Michigan.
And you have Japanese roots.
Yes, both my parents are Japanese.
Can you tell me more about your childhood? Where are you from? What was it like? And how big Japanese culture is in your life?
Yes, both my parents are Japanese. They were PhD students when I was born in Michigan, but I basically grew up I always say I grew up in Texas, because by the time I kind of went from Michigan to Missouri to Texas, and from the age of 10 till I finished university, I was in Austin, Texas. Japanese, I think my parents tried their best to I got to go visit my grandparents in the summer back in Japan. They lived in Japan. So I've always had that there. And I think growing up in America, I knew I wasn't just like a white American kid, but I very much wanted to be just like an American. So yeah, I probably spent most of my childhood until mid-university I liked playing music. I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be a pro skater. My dad wanted me to go to Harvard. The two maybe clashed, but that was my kind of upbringing. And it was only mid-college that I thought to study Japanese, actually. Well, my dad kind of demanded I do from the beginning, but from mid-college, I thought I could actually try my best to become fluent, because that was around when I finally got the idea that maybe I could actually be an actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't get it till I was 20, basically.
It's a familiar situation because my kids are teenagers and they grow up here in the UK. They speak English, it's their main language now. But I'm from Eastern Europe. I'm a Russian-speaking Ukrainian from Latvia, born in USSR. So it's a whole mess. And we try to make them keep some knowledge of Russian language, because it's always good to know another language, for sure. The more languages you know, the richer I think your mind is in many ways, because I don't know if it's true, but I have this theory that every language has a structure.
Yes.
All right. And I think when you learn just one language, you kind of think maybe in one structure way. And if you know more languages and different structures, I think maybe your mind gets more flexible. But maybe I'm fooling myself. I don't know.
I could see that, because I guess since I moved over this way to London, I found I didn't know until I left, but I found, I guess, my time living, especially before I moved to Los Angeles, it's much more of a melting pot perhaps here of, even France is so close. So I wasn't as used to hearing so many different languages and different accents of English until I moved here, perhaps. But I do believe what you're saying makes sense, because I remember watching a great play about these people that had a language where they had no past tense. So then everything they said was just in the now. So if someone arrives, they're here, and when they leave, they're gone. It's not like they will be back or they were here. They're either here or they're gone. And it was a funny play to watch, because I was like, oh wow, the way they think must be really in the now. We are here. And then afterwards, when we're done, we are not. So yeah.
And how did acting come into your life? Because what were your plans before you started studying acting?
As I said, I think I really liked skateboarding growing up. I really wanted to be a pro skater, and I also loved music. I just grew up with a piano in the house and a guitar. Or I got the guitar kind of later, but somewhere along those two, I started realizing being a musician, Austin's a great place to be a musician, but I played my open mics, but I could see, I don't know, certain people just seemed to have more of a knack perhaps than me at it. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I quite have that. My dad had me initially, I also like computers and computer games. So I was studying computer science initially, but I could also see people had a knack. And same with skateboarding. I became an amateur sponsored skateboarder, but when I go to the contests, I was not the number one that everyone, I had a weird kind of goofy style. I loved early grabs. I always landed somewhere 13th place. So I didn't feel like I had the knack in it. So I guess I was a bit lost. And around age 20, there just happened to be some sign as I was walking around my campus at UT Austin saying, come audition for this film. And I just thought, I've always loved movies. I never really thought that it was something that was viable I could be in. I just assumed you had to look like Brad Pitt or something, or shout like Al Pacino, and I didn't really know if I had that. But I went to this audition, and I remember I was so nervous. I couldn't stop shaking the paper. I had the sides, and they kept saying, maybe we can just put it down. And I was like, I just need it because I can't remember the line. And I felt so bad when I left. Is how I still feel about dancing, actually, that I went and immediately found an acting class in Austin. I wasn't a major in acting, so I was looking around. I guess it wasn't Google at those times in the year 2000. And I found a local teacher named Mona Lee, who had a studio called Bright Lights Acting Studio. And I remember seeing, she's in some movies I had seen. And that's where I first realized, it's something it's a craft that you can study. I never had no concept of that people have intentions in a scene. So I think it really opened up oh wow, this is a type of studying that I never thought to study something I enjoyed. I think I always was told to learn the math, and I scored well on the, work as best I can to get the grades, but I didn't understand, I didn't have a linking point between what I studied and what I really wanted to do, because my math and my skateboard, I don't think they were that connected. Skateboarding was just practice kickflips till you land it. Anyhow, the acting class opened my mind to studying, or I approached it with a very studious attitude, and I read this in book we were doing, Respect for Acting, Uta Hagen.
Another one.
And I loved like finding the intentions, the mini wants, the verbs, breaking down the scene, whole arcs, and so happy going through the class. And at the end of the class, I remember telling the teacher, yeah, I'm ready for your intermediate class. And she was like, I think you may be best served behind the camera. And I remember it crushed my
God.
I was like, it must be because I look bad. Or I remember just feeling so like not cool with that I went and immediately found this different teacher who was teaching Meisner acting in town, and another local teacher named Michael Perella, and I love his work in Boyhood much later. But I think it was the best thing she did because of her saying that, it made me, it like lit a fire in me to like really push at it. And as you said about the languages, I found everything totally fresh again going into a repetition. I had no idea what we were doing at the beginning. I have a white shirt, or you have a blue shirt, you know. So that's how it's a long-winded story thing of how I came to think, pro skater, I probably wouldn't last past 30, my knees and stuff. But I could see that this thing that I didn't know if I was that good at or anything, I could spend a long time hopefully getting good at it. And I had this vision that in my 60s, I would be like a master craftsman at it. I don't know if it meant I would be successful, but I was like, it's something I could perhaps, choose as a career.
How do you define success in acting for yourself?
For me,
not just for you. Just in general, your understanding what is success in acting, because I think a lot of people have very different opinions. Someone thinks like if you're not Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio, you're not successful in acting. Someone thinks that if I can come to set and play with my friends, I'm successful.
The opportunity to get to play with other people on a show, being in shows or now video game voices or whatever it may be. I used to think acting was like if you have like a bunch of old storytellers around a campfire and they have to talk to some kids and they tell their story, whatever it is, a ghost story, and if the kids are happy with it in the end, that we did our job as storytellers. I guess that would translate to then everything I have to do has to be like a box office success and the audience like loves it. But I think for me, getting to be part of it is quite a success.
But what would you call a successful career? At which point do you think that the career of an actor is successful? Because, you have more than 150 credits on IMDb, I think.
I don't think it's that many, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's that many. I checked yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. But I think it's films, it's games, maybe some other stuff additionally. But there's you have a lot of credits. So you worked a lot. And some of the roles were bigger, some of the roles were smaller. And on the other hand, first of all, I didn't start 20 years ago. Unfortunately, I started around 11 years ago, and it was I think it was around 11 years ago when I went to my first acting class for dummies. When you just don't understand anything, you just I need to do something.
Did you go to it because you felt like you needed to, like me? Were you did you do an audition and then go, oh my gosh, I need to get lowered? Or
no, I went because I worked as a designer for almost 20 years, up until 2023.
Okay.
And by then, when I went to the acting class, I worked as a designer for 10 years or so. Yeah. And I'm from Latvia. There is no industry.
Okay.
There is a theater. They're doing some kind of movies and series for local TV, but it's nothing big. It's there is no industry, film industry. So when I was there, I always thought I want to be a part of storytelling, and I loved movies, I loved films, series always so much that I wanted to be a part of it. So, but back then, when I was in Latvia, I never thought about me as an actor, and I also always thought you, actor? you're a wooden boy. Who would want to watch you? And I had this voice in my head, but when I came to the UK after like 2 years here, or a year and a half, I don't remember, 2 probably. Maybe it was early midlife crisis, I don't know. I was 30 or 31 at that point. I was like, you know what? No, I want to do acting. And this voice was like, yeah, you're not an actor. I said, shut up. And I went to my first acting class. And since then, I can't imagine doing anything else. I just like, this is what I want to do. I can't think of anything else. I don't care about design anymore. I worked as a designer. After I went to my acting classes, I was still working as a designer.
Is it like a graphic designer?
Graphic web, like all this stuff.
Oh, okay, I see.
And I was like, I just don't care about design anymore. I can do it. I can do it pretty well. But I just don't care about it anymore. And then since 2023, when I lost my job, I was made redundant after almost 9 years in the company. I thought like, no more. I'll do this. I'll do my podcast. And then I need some money. So I started delivering food because it's somewhat flexible. But acting is what I have passion for. And unfortunately, I don't get to play with my friends as often as I would like to. But it seems like you do have more of this. So what I was asking before, like, at what level do you think career is successful for an actor?
Immediately when I first decided I want to do this as a job, I remember thinking, I used to love Nine Inch Nails, and I remember hearing or reading something about Trent Reznor being so broke at one point. He was just living on ramen noodles. And I think at the age of 23 or 22, I was like, I can do that. I mean, I like ramen anyway, so I don't mind. And they used to be really cheap. Like you could, especially in America, you could buy these really crap ones for like, I don't know, 17 pennies. And not even P, back in anyhow, I was ready to be broke, basically, at the beginning. And then LA is a very business-like town. Many people had this term professional actor. And they always said a professional actor is someone who pays their bills acting. That's when you've made it. So my first thing was like being able to say that, which it really, in a sense, what I found is it's such an up and down industry. I found all sorts of ways that people slowly showed me, like how first like signing up to all these focus groups to make little bits of money doing surveys on the side, or going to a new store when it opened and buy a laptop with a $300 off coupon to sell it on eBay to make the difference. Like all sorts of little, anything I could to make the bare minimum to eat my ramen. And of course, at the same time, hustling for an agent. And I actually, my first year in LA, which I guess is my official, from their term called professional, one of my first jobs was a very big commercial, nationwide commercial that pretty much let me easily eat ramen for that first year. But then year 2 and 3, it wasn't as good. And at some point I took a job at a sushi restaurant and I became what I always thought I didn't want to do. I called it the cliche, to be a server and an actor. I actually met some great friends there. But
most of them who were also actors.
No. This is in Burbank, California. My good friend Josh, I haven't talked to him in forever, but just this whole crew I hung out with. And by a long term of events, somehow I got into game show production. Because I played, it's long term, but due to me playing music, I started playing music with a guy who worked producing game shows. And that led to me at one point running something called the music coordination department for an NBC game show, where I was able to take one of my friends from the sushi restaurant, as well as my friend from Texas. And we ran the music coordination department for this show called The Singing Bee back in 2008, I believe, or 7. Of course, by this time, I realized the acting is, I call it like fishing. It can come and it can go. So I started to realize it's always wise, if you can, to put some aside for the times it's not going. And I think amidst that, I was actually working at the game show. I found out a lot of the people whenever they're not working, they immediately file for unemployment insurance. These are kind of random. It's like, that's how they're kind of stabilizing themselves until the next job. So after learning all these various things, I got to where I would say year 1, I paid my bills acting. Year 2 and 3 was really I don't know. Does that mean I was less professional? I don't think so now. But at the time, I guess I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not professional. And then by year 3 or 4, I guess it became because of, well, actually it was year 2 and 3, because of the game show, I did better because it was more stable, the job. But over time, I started thinking that's a very tough point to call yourself a professional or not, this pay your bills. And I realized I think of it more as a kind of way of life, and my personal success as a career, I think, is if you feel personally fulfilled with whatever things you get to do. And my thing I said about fishing, I consider it like fishing. I always imagine there can be like a fishing pier, and there could be someone landing huge, like fatty tuna every single day. That can be them. And it's very tough to not like be jealous of their thing, especially if you have a day where you get nothing and you just have the worm you brought. Maybe it's a plastic worm. But in the end, if I'm happy fishing, then I try to be happy with that, if that makes any sense.
It does. It's just very hard, Sometimes you have very long periods of not having any fish.
Yes, that can. So I guess it's always a trick to, I have often always thought to try to spread what I can do out, because I don't just do TV. I don't just do video. It's like I'll try to figure out how to do a variety to make something kind of happen. And I guess over 20 years, over time, particularly probably for me, since I moved to London, I have found I'll do everything from making the background audio for other films, like I'm part of these crowd ADR or loop groups or Walla or whatever you want to call it. They used to call it Walla in Hollywood because they used to say, you can just sit around saying Walla, 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 and it's just the back. But they do hire specific people for specific things. Like they want an airport, they might need a Russian speaker and a Japanese speaker, and they just have you all mumbling in the background, making up conversations. I'll do that as well, if that makes sense. I actually quite like the improv nature of that whenever I do that. But I think what I'm trying to say is, yes, I know, especially if it's just TV, for me, there can be gaps. And the trick is figuring out how to maybe fill the gaps with stuff that still feels like it's part of your career, in a sense, is how I looked at it.
Yeah, I think if you are choosing acting as a career, be prepared for a career of constant hustle.
Yeah, or be very lucky and have something that, some reason you don't have to stress so much about your bills, so that you can have the time to be able to act, and somehow, there's no one answer, have a way to pay whatever bills.
Yeah.
My podcast is usually about, how someone's career begins. You started writing scripts. Where did that come from? Why did you start doing that? Where did it begin?
My mum did amateur dramatics. I didn't even know I wanted to be an actor when I went to university. I just wanted to get laid.
The audition went amazingly. I was like loving my life, feeling great, really wanted to do the film. This was years ago. And I went to lunch with my agent and she goes, they did not like what you did.
And I really went for this note, because it was one of those ones you have the belt to reach. And just soared past it.
What your secret is to your great head of hair, but we'll do that another time.
I have nothing to do with it. It just grows. What can I say? Thank God.
Whenever I'm feeling like I might give up, I'm going to watch this clip and just remind myself, keep going, never give up. If you're up for 25, 30 minutes, that would be great.
I think you'd be bored out of your mind after 14 minutes.
That's genius.
Watch or listen to the Live and Film podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. What's your story?
Tell me about LA. So you moved to LA at some point. You lived in LA, right? Tell me what it is, how that town works, especially if you're an actor.
I actually moved from Texas to Japan for 1 year, and then I moved from there to LA. But so officially I started doing some plays in Tokyo. But I remember when I arrived to LA, I was like, here's the land where it's always sunny. And from the movies, I imagine like blonde girls on roller skates going down next to Venice or the beach, sidewalk. I wasn't ready for the maze of 6-lane highways and traffic and just how spread out of a city it was initially. It's kind of like a huge version of Austin, Texas that spreads forever and ever and ever in all directions. But I think what I found I liked about it was, at least up in the Burbank to West Hollywood to Santa Monica, that's not really the whole of LA, but that part that I was in, Van Nuys and the Valley, it seemed like almost everybody was an actor. Like about 95%, the cops, the person who cut my hair, my dentist, they all somehow knew someone or had some story, or they all knew. They're very not surprised if you say, "Oh, I'm an actor," and I've gone, "Oh yeah, okay." That's where the joke often came. "Oh yeah, what Starbucks do you work at, or what restaurant do you work at," and stuff. But I think it was a great place for me at the time, in a sense, because I also didn't know what I just kind of showed up there, and it forced me to, there were so many people saying how seriously they took it. So I went, it kind of felt like a gym of being very business serious, even though it didn't seem to be that much about the nuts and bolts of being like really getting into like a character, like a theater study. It was like how to be on camera and land the part to get the commercial for hair that you're doing, or whatever it may be. And I think that plus all the just everybody being actors, it was a great first place to be. But after about 8 years there,
8 years is a long time.
It was like 2004 to 2012 I was there. But when I was in Japan, I had met a British girl, and we were married. And so there was a point where she wanted to come.
That's so interesting. You went from America to Japan. You met your future wife there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was British. Interesting.
We are no longer together, but it is kind of weird to think if I never had gone to Japan, I probably would never have come here and become British myself now. And I've actually lived here longer than anywhere in my life. Coming on year, was it 2026? So, and it was from 2012, about 13 years. Is that right? Is my math
13,
off?
14, yeah.
14. It'll be 14. Yeah, May 1st. It will be 14 years. That's the longest I've lived anywhere.
A little bit more about LA then, and how the town works. Is it constant hustle, classes? I mean,
it depends on how much you choose to be that way. Obviously, when I worked at my sushi restaurant and found my friends, we became good friends. They didn't really have anything I was like, "Oh yeah, you really don't have anything to do with the industry," as they called it. But I was steadily finding acting classes, and then had my agent and going out for auditions. At the auditions over there, they don't mind. They have more space, I guess. So often you see a bunch of the actors you're gonna tape with, especially commercials, and they'd be like, "Oh, they need a bleach-haired Asian, and here's all 50 of us." But we knew each other, so in a sense, it was I guess a good networking experience. But for me, I prefer London in the end for being.
Tell me, what was the difference in the industry between London and LA?
I think it felt more all-encompassing, with many people that were, more that everyone was kind of always talking about it, at least within the circle that I was in, because everybody that I was friends with was an actor. So everything I did would be loosely talking about acting, while say over here, some people might be a designer that I'm friends with or something. Then so the talk can be quite different. My, girlfriend is in the medical field. And so there's just a total different, and it could have been that way for other people in LA, but for me, it felt very all encompassing.
But what about the industry? How different is industry here in comparison to LA? It's just because again, as I know about LA, I know LA from films and just some interviews when people say that like you're coming to the audition and just see 20 versions of yourself. Slightly different.
I think it also probably depends. I never started acting in London, for example, right? Because I came here after working 8 years in LA. So it could be that London could feel similar if you were to come here and start, as I did. But in LA, initially, it always felt like there's some great stuff happening and I'm not part of it. It's like being entry level and seeing 50 of yourself going for the same thing is kind of how it could feel. And then occasionally get something, but maybe it felt like a bigger ocean. So it's hard to kind of get to know or have traction initially. Now I'm not sure. I don't go back that often, but I don't feel that disconnected. I feel like it is nice that it's an industry that I feel like the more you work, the more people seem to know. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it feels that way.
While you were there and here, like you did do some cool jobs, because when I saw you on Mad Men, I was like, this is so cool. And it was a fun role to play.
Yeah, I remember actually, I think that was 2007 or 8, when I got that gig. I remember they were looking for just Japanese for these people. And of course, at the audition, I remember them being my usual 50 Asians of everyone. And I was like, oh, you're Japanese? I remember you're Korean, right? But we all did it. And I remember I had some friends, I have a group of friends that I call like Jap native from Japan Japanese. And I kept telling some of them, like my good friend Masa Kanome, it's like, this one should be for you. You're really a Japanese person. And when I got the role and got to the shoot, everyone hired was not a native Japanese person. It was like me. Everyone was more an American Japanese. And it made me think maybe it had to do with the director felt more flexible. They could ask you to say, change your accent to be more not fluent. Or I have no idea. I still don't know why, but I remember that has happened quite a few times, and even in castings here, that I'll see like, must be American for an American commercial. And then you go shoot it and like, I'm the only American in the group of 10. But yes, I remember Mad Men being, I remember knowing of the show, that it was like a well-to-do show, and then getting the part, working with I forgot, Matt, I forgot his name, but my very next thing down the line was my first video game, which was called LA Noire, back when they did motion capture and facial capture at separate times. He was the lead of that game. So it was very funny to go from table reads on Mad Men to this game where it's like, oh, hey, yeah, cool. See you here too.
How was the experience in general, Mad Men?
It was nice. Yeah, very nice. I met some interesting people on the set, Vincent Kartheiser and John Hamm and John Slattery. Yeah, they were nice. Yeah, it was a good time.
Nice. Yeah, the thing that you were talking about of castings not being too authentic. How often do you find that situation to be true?
I don't know if I wouldn't say not authentic, but it always surprises me, because in the end, it's not our decision who gets like how they cast. I can sit here and guess why it was that the non-native Japanese became the Japanese to put on thicker accents and pretend to not speak English, even if they really speak English more than they do Japanese. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's I don't claim to know why casting happens the way it does.
It's just, look, I noticed so many times when there is casting for someone who is Russian speaker, and I'm native Russian speaker. And when you do the tape, and look, maybe the tape wasn't good. I understand that sometimes maybe there is someone who's much better, but often it happens that you see the film later when you don't get a role or a series, and there is someone who's maybe he looks better for the part, but they can't talk for shit in Russian at all. They just like, it's not their not native language. It's not just a language that they know even a little bit.
Right.
And I'm just curious, how often do you see things like that? Because right now, for example, I'm finishing Tokyo Vice.
Oh yeah.
It's a really good series. But basically, the main guy, he was from Baby Driver. He was the Baby Driver. And I read about it a little bit, and he studied Japanese for the series, apparently. Like, and I'm not sure how much of how good is his Japanese. To me, it sounds as he does speak the language. But I'm just curious. Have you watched it?
Yeah, season 1.
Yeah. How do you think? What do you think about his?
I mean, he's not supposed to be Japanese. I mean, just looking at him, I wouldn't imagine he's Japanese. So
of course.
I was like, yeah, it doesn't have to sound. I mean, I don't gauge his proficiency at Japanese. Well, Ken Watanabe being there, it's fun to watch because I'm like, oh, when he gets to speak Japanese, it's nice to see because that's what he really speaks. But he's, he speaks English in plenty of things, and he has to work at that. And I think that's part of.
I understand. It's just I'm just curious, how well was his Japanese one? Like, can you properly understand him? I understand that he has an accent for sure. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything else. But how good is his Japanese pronunciation? And
off the top of my head, I can't remember it detracting me from, but I'm someone that doesn't get thrown by accents so much, I think, because like even in America or here, it's not like everyone has the same accent in general. So if they're speaking it, I will easily think, okay, they're supposed to be speaking like I was thinking there's other films I've watched where I think someone did a great job, but then local people from that language are like, no, that he did not sound native. And I'm like, well, as an actor, I can imagine they worked hard at it, and that was I'm glad they get the opportunity to work hard, and hopefully down the line they can get better. But it doesn't trick me then, or it doesn't. But then I was thinking also, when you talk about the authenticity, some shows I feel like do spend more time having an effort on that, and I commend them, and hopefully we can have more of those as well. But it's a tough one too, because you may say want to work on something, but if they're really, really being authentic, it can be tough to get on that one too.
It's true. But
you reminded me, I was thinking about how much it becomes a small world when you're talking back to Mad Men again. On Mad Men, one of the other Japanese people on that show, Sab Shimono, he was also in my agency. And when we were shooting the episode I was in, Chrysanthemum and the Sword, the director, Leslie Linka Glatter, she apparently had directed him. I remember when we were on set, there was a time he came out, and then I think his name's Robert Morse, the old man in Mad Men, the Zen old man. They somehow started looking at each other and started singing this musical number. And I was like, what's happening? And apparently they had worked together on like a play. I forget, sorry, I'm probably telling it wrong, but in Broadway or somewhere. And the director of that thing had cast Saab in her first student film like years ago.
Oh my God.
And so it made me just think, oh, that's so nice. Like to see, I mean, I wasn't part of that little, but it was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of history of how much of a small world it becomes over time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you keep meeting the same people on different sets.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like where? Oh, yes, we did this thing that I'm trying to forget.
Yeah, but I guess I'm imagining it could feel the same if even, I don't know if it can be the same, but like if certain, like even people that work as a construction team, if they start building a building, go, hey, we did that bank the other day. Yeah, good to see you again. Like, can be like
true.
that.
How big was theater in your life back then?
My very first things in a sense, I guess, were theater. If I think back to my first acting class, it was definitely prepare a scene and go on the stage and do it. I found it terrifying. I think I was trying to do what terrifies me. I personally like the concept and the fact that it is like live, like you really only have one take. So you rehearse all this time for these one takes that happen. And then the audience just, if something goes wrong, if the light falls, you still have to keep going. You can't cut it and edit. So in that sense, there's a kind of danger and aliveness to it. And then hopefully sometimes you can even get lost in the whole story more so because it's not like what Ian McKellen said about like, I'm just Ian McKellen, thou shalt not pass. And then, it's not just a moment. It's more like you can be well in it, which he obviously does himself. Yeah. So I think I respect it. I'm still afraid of it in a sense myself, like the idea of being in front and everyone watching, I don't love, but I try to do it whenever the right thing comes along that I think I can do.
Well, you did something last year.
Yes,
something
yeah.
big.
So that was the first time in 10 years.
Oh, really?
I think that I was on a stage. But yeah, I was at the Almeida for a kind of small role in a Moon for the Misbegotten, a Eugene O'Neill old American play. And it was a great time getting to work with Michael Shannon, Ruth Wilson were kind of the leads, but also David Threlfall and Peter Corboy. It was just a small cast of 5. When I had moved to the UK, I was trying to do research on shows and I watched all of Shameless. So it was very surreal to then get, majority of what I did was with David, and he was a great kind of teacher at being present on the stage because he never let me not like be in it.
Oh, really?
And he always tried stuff, which I found very kind of helpful.
How did he keep you in it?
He would just demand your attention. He would tap your shoulder, like anything, turn your face, like whatever it may be. If it felt like, I guess to him, he wanted you to be listening. And I like that it wasn't like planned. So it just kind of kept you in it more. Yeah.
How was the experience in general? Because you say it's scary.
That one, I think usually when I say I haven't done theater in the last play I did was like 10 years prior. I have done some small bits here and there and stage readings and all that. And largely it's because most of the time the theater I've done that's like smaller, there's rarely any time. So like sometimes it could be, you could just be replacing for someone at the last minute. So you may not even know everything, but they're like, it's fine. Someone off stage can like just give you the line if you really need it. To me, that's terrifying.
Of course.
Now, this play had like a month of rehearsal. I didn't have that much I need to prep. So because that, maybe that's part of why it was a great part for me. I knew it since day one of rehearsal. It was very impressive to see Michael Shannon knew his large part from day one of rehearsal. But I was going to say it was a great experience to getting to see how everyone worked. Everyone had quite different styles in a sense, and just working with I guess I would say like this is a very pro caliber group. I didn't find myself as nervous in this one. Perhaps because of all the rehearsal and all the work up to the point of going up there. Yeah, or maybe I just got more used to it finally.
Did you get to enjoy it at some point?
Yeah, I enjoyed it the whole time. I mean, I enjoyed the nerves that I was talking about. It's more like when I wasn't in the play. Doing the play every time, I had various mixed emotions, but of a general positive. Again, reminding myself I'm happy to be. This is literally part of being that storyteller at the campfire. I'm like the guy holding the kindling.
How long was the run?
Roughly 64 shows. How long was that? From about 2 months. I think it was a month rehearsal, 2 months. It was basically last summer, from May to mid-August.
Nice.
And then Michael Shannon plays in a band, so it was really cool. Watched his band play various songs, but largely REM songs, and he felt like a different person up there, which is kind of cool to see, because he was also quite different each time in the play as well. So I think it was a really nice experience.
I'm sure that like in 2 months of performing, there should have been some interesting and fun moments on stage, something unplanned, something when something goes wrong. Tell me.
Many moments. I was largely in one scene, so a lot of the other parts of the play I could watch some of the things, but on my own, in my own scene that I was in, there's often this thing at the end where I actually, midway through the scene, I get hit with a whip, and I have a hat on, and most of the time I make the hat come off. Sometimes it wouldn't. But most of the time when it came off, it gets thrown back to me as I leave. And there was one time I remember it got thrown right into the audience, and I just didn't know. I just had to leave it there. And then there were just there's another time Ruth, who's the one who does it, put some of the set dressing in there, like hay, and just put it on my head at the end. So, but I think the one where it basically just hit an audience member was the one that there was a split second of, should I get, no, okay. It's like all the way across and then, so that was a kind of fun little moment. And then there were some times that were like really movie level. There was a time it was thrown off, but I managed to just grab it, which is great. And then, so I think that hat throw kept it kind of fun. Like, I wonder how it's going to go this time. I remember sometimes that shows me not to be, life does what you don't plan. I was like, this time it's definitely coming off my head. When I get hit, I'm going to yank my head back so it goes off my head. It didn't go off my head. And then usually then Dave can help and maybe tip it off my head. But I think that time he tried and he missed, and he didn't bother to try a second time. So it was just on my head. And I was like, I had so many plans for that hat, and the hat was not needed. It shouldn't have been a thing, because in reality, in that scene, that person's hat shouldn't come off or not come off. It's not a thing that they should have been worrying about. So to me, it was fun that it's the unpredictability of it.
How would you compare theater to screen in terms of joy of working?
I think with screen, I used to often think, oh man, theater must be so nice when you really get to know the lines, is what I used to say. Like TV, they can often do a rewrite, so your lines can change. So up to the last minute, you may not truly know what your lines are. And then when you get there, perhaps they have a specific camera move you didn't know. Oh, that's what you're wanting to do. So I'm going to be walking when I thought I was sitting in a chair, and I'm actually doing this or whatever. I used to think, with a stage play where everything has been quite rehearsed, it will be nice to have the freedom to act amidst all these carefully planned choices. But in actuality, I found I think what all these cool things I'm saying that they were finding in the play to do to keep it to not keep it alive, but that kept it fresh. They are actually things that happen in film because film is not predicted at all. It's relatively like unpredictable every time. So I think my takeaway from it is I can see why the acting teacher methods and ways lots of it came from them figuring out ways to keep things fresh for people that were on stage. I don't think they were initially created so much for film, the acting theories. And I think I like the unpredictability of film amidst the non-pressure of being in a one take, usually, unless you're in adolescence. I think I realized from doing the play that both times that I was striving for a kind of freshness. So I think the difference is the play is the one take, like a one live take each time, while film, perhaps I'm more comfortable in the idea of I can try stuff and it's more just in the faith of the editor and how the director is going to put it. How it will look. I have no control over how it will look, but as an actor, I can try. The freshness is naturally there from the unpredictability of filming. So perhaps I like that overall. Maybe stress is a little less. Yeah. But the challenge of the one take of a play still has its own appeal.
I mean, but this is one good thing about theater, I think. It's not just like it's only one good thing, but one thing that I can think of straight away is just that the audience is there, right there, and you can have this feedback from the audience straight away. Because with film, sometimes you have no idea how people react to what you do.
Yeah.
Like you can do some, like a film or series, and you can go to the viewing with, cast and crew, but you have no idea how actual viewers react to it and what they feel, unless you go to, an internet and try to find something.
And then they're gonna, yeah.
And again, then you need to build something big, which for me almost never happened. But in theater, you can feel this energy straight away. That's why I didn't do anything for 60 performances. The biggest thing that I did on the French theater was 4 nights.
Still,
yeah, it's still cool, but it's nothing like it's not as big, and you can feel the audience. That's the one thing that I really.
It's funny you say that because I often found. The audiences are different. I definitely realized throughout and it was funny because they started saying, yes. There's definitely a difference with the Saturday matinee crowd and the Friday night crowd, and the crowd that comes on during the week is how they were kind of saying it. But the other cast members that knew more about stage than I do. But I would say personally, I used to think it through me because I want my best to be in the fictional world of the play. So if an audience laughter thing happens, I know we have to kind of pause. We can't just keep going. So for me, it was a bit of in a sense, it's nice to know, someone's enjoying what I'm doing, but also it's like, it was weird because I was like, it also made me remember you're in front of people and not let you. So actually for me, in a film, it's harder because it could be such a small segmented, bit you're doing. Like right now you're doing scene 47A, pickups just your side of this thing that's in episode 3. So
and you only start from this phrase and you just finish the scene here, and then we'll change the angle.
Yeah, we don't have time to do the whole scene, so we're just going to start from your line, which is mid-scene on second and 2.5. But within that, so some of that's a little bit of a brain headache, like, wait, so what was I do? Okay. But within the film, I actually quite like that they're like, quiet on set. It's now imagination time. Okay. Gary Oldman's not here, but he was just saying that, and I'm in response saying, I kind of like that I don't expect there to be laughter, and I can just try to focus on that. This is what the moment is supposed to be, and do this personally. But I do know, there was a night that there was more. This play was not a very good comedy in any shape or form, but there was one night that was quite laughy, and it felt quite nice. Like, I think everyone was drinking drinks and having a good time. And then the next morning's matinee was like dead quiet. And I was like, oh yeah, I do miss, or I don't know if they're having a good time or not. But I kind of felt like, but I don't want to, that's not what I'm supposed to, my job is to be in this little story. And so I think for me, the film, it can very much feel like a work, but I quite like that it's just like, well, it gets quiet before I get to film, unless it's like some set that's not supposed to be quiet.
It's so interesting as well with theater, how differently crowd reacts to the same bit. And sometimes, I mean, every night is different. Ideally, every night is a little bit different, and every interaction between two actors is a little bit different because they feed from each other. But I noticed this a couple of times. I remember there were some plays that we were doing, and actors, when you rehearse for like 2-3 weeks, you already know each other. And some things that someone does can be funny to you because you know this particular person, this actor, as they are. And then when they do something, you feel, oh, this is good, this is funny. But the audience don't know them, and they don't react to this at all. And sometimes they are dead serious to the bits that we felt like they were hilarious. And then they laugh at something, you're like, well, you kidding me? This is a serious bit, why are you laughing?
So
it's interesting how people react. All right. And then you do a lot of voiceover work. How did you get into it?
I guess I was saying earlier about LA Noire, Mad Men, and then that was my first video game and my only video game in LA times, actually. I had a period where I looked for a voice agent in LA, but I never actually knew that my voice would be particularly good for anything. When I moved to the UK, my agent that I got here and have remained with is called the American Agency. And I feel like the very beginning was just like literally like, okay, I think it was called like Security Officer Number 7 or something. And it's just saying like in a very American accent, like copy that, suspect not present, or, something, just record something like that. And I got one of those after maybe 3 or 4 auditions. And I went and did those, very small lines. And I feel like, again, I don't know how, but just over time, I kept getting occasionally auditions for a better part. And then eventually, at some point, after doing so many of those little ones, they keep the recordings of what they've recorded with you. So I didn't know that at the time, but for any new games that come, they already have a database. And so by recording some, you're in the database. And I feel like new clients could choose you. So then some of them just automatically, again, now your name is Officer Daniels or something. Oh, okay. So that's kind of the progression of how it went. And more recently, I realized there are also casting directors at these sound house recording places, which in London, there are several, but like I know of Side, OMUK, Molinaire, Liquid Violet, Pit Stop, spread out all over town. And I feel like if they know you, I'm assuming their casting department, when the right things come, they probably put your voice forward if they have a sample of your thing. And if they don't have a sample, they may ask you to record a sample. Or they often ask me to record a sample if they aren't sure, like just to see. Or there's some places where I'll get a batch to try, and sometimes just for fun. I remember one recently for, I think it was like an auto racing game. Everything's NDA'd, so you can't really say too much, but I remember there was some guy who was supposed to be, I think, like a Hispanic card shop dealer or something, and so I just thought it'd be fun to try my best. Hey, your name means here in Spanish, right? Like kind of voice. So I just did that kind of thing, just for fun.
Yeah.
I didn't get I didn't get that one, but. Again, I feel like even recording those samples, they have all that. So your file that they have just grows. And then over time, it's become sometimes a better part, I guess, or a bigger part. So yeah. And then at some point I turned around and was like, oh my goodness, this year I did the trailer voice for 2 games. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that was couple of years back now, and I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, I never thought I'd be the guy who's saying things like, what are those lines? Just the war is coming. Like, that I don't even have that trailer voice, but I got to be like, we're outnumbered. That's right. We're outnumbered, outgunned, but the enemy doesn't have what we do, or so, like that kind of thing. It's fun. So nice. I really hope they start getting you in for one thing, and then you can show them that you don't have to just be a Russian.
I mean, either with my accent, I probably will have to. But no. It's. I probably need to think about actually going to professional, because my voice reel was recorded under Duvet with probably those mics, not different mics, but anyways, and it's not as professional as it would be done in the studio with people who actually direct you, because I had to do it myself, pretend to be like a something, like it was a character voice, and it's an ongoing process that doesn't lead me anywhere yet.
Yeah, my very first voice reel I did actually try. It was back in Japan, and you're right, I had some sound guy who put it together, but I also did my own. I know a little bit of sound editing myself, I guess, and I just learned a bit about how you can mix a little music track in the bottom. So it's easy to practice, doing a commercial and put some Muzak lower track into it. Yeah. Compact computers or whatever. Yeah. But I still don't have that many reels, and lots of what I've done has been homegrown, and then only my video game reel now, because I've done so many video games, I go hunt them down and just rip the footage from YouTube and like put it into a file.
Yeah.
But I don't,
Look, you are my most favorite game of all times. Cyberpunk. Yes, it's time again to talk about Cyberpunk.
Do you talk about Cyberpunk all the time?
Unfortunately, I believe that it came up a couple of times.
So Beyond Real Talk 2077.
No, but because look, it's a game I played more than 1,000 hours.
I'm a gamer myself, but I think my most recent games I beat was Death Stranding 2, and I'm now playing the game of the year this year as a Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which has some great UK voices amidst, I think they might all be. But yeah, it's a pretty good one. But most of the time I hit around 100, 120 hours and I go, okay, wow, I played this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the Cyberpunk,
I know, at least on your IMDb, there are mentioned 2 characters. I'm guessing you probably did different voices, like smaller parts.
Yes.
But also there are 2 parts mentioned.
But the main one I knew from early on in the game is a guy who gets stuffed in a trunk of a car named Anthony Gilchrist. It's one of the very early missions. I believe it was called The Information, and that's the one that I went, that's me. That's the first when I was playing the game. So that's the one I know the most, is a guy named Anthony Gilchrist. But I have no idea what they've credited me for, and I have done several chunks from that, as well as the expansion Phantom Liberty. Yeah, no, that game. I was thinking when you said that game recorded at at the sound house called Side. They have locations throughout the world, and everything's usually with an NDA and code name. So I didn't even know initially what the game was I was working on, but I remember, like hindsight now, I read for a bigger character I didn't get in that game. Part of Johnny Silverhand's band, I believe. And So again, that's an example of, well, they gave me a shot at some part.
Yeah.
I think as a guitarist, forgot his name. But in the end, I like all these various parts I guess I got to do. And again, that game's been out for a while. It's amazing. It's still in the charts. So I think it's fine to say that.
Well, when it came out, let's be honest, it wasn't in a good shape.
Did you play it on the PlayStation or?
I played it on PC, and I played it on the day one because I bought it before it came out. So
right.
On the day one when it came out, I started playing. I was like, "Whoa, that's a mess!" But I can't stop because the Night City just swallowed me completely. I couldn't stop playing this game, even when I was like angry because I had to replay last 4 hours because there was some bug because of which I couldn't do the quest, and I had to come back to old saves. I still couldn't stop playing it, but then they just fixed it and they made it. It's an amazing game.
That was during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I remember because PS5 hadn't come out yet. So, and I have never done this, but to this day, I have a gaming laptop, and I bought it specifically because I wanted to be able to handle the wrecks that Cyberpunk may have.
Yeah.
So I don't remember it being too bad, but then I remember looking online and seeing these video clips from PS4, I guess, of people like walking around Night City. Like the guy's legs don't even move. It's like just like hovering. And I was like, oh wow, I'm not seeing that. But I do think, there were probably some bug and patches, and now it's just it's amazing. There's a whole mod thing I never got into. I don't even know how you do that, but news articles keep popping up in my feed about how they've made this new mod that you can do. You need to go to the bathroom. I think that's the latest mod. If you don't go to the bathroom, you can actually die from like letting your bladder overfill or something, which I thought, oh wow.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, look, I don't know what to do, who to sleep with, but I want to be on Project Orion. I don't care. I will do anything to get on this second.
Did you call it by its code? Do you know the code name, or did you say Project Orion? Is that what they're calling it?
I think they call it at the moment right now. We don't know what the final name of the game will be because I know they started working on it, Cyberpunk 2.
Right.
And they call it Project Orion for now. But look, I'll find someone. I'll fight someone if you want. I will fight a man. I'll fight a woman. I'll kick a kid.
Oh wow!
Get me
kill a dog. No, worst thing in Hollywood. I hope you do get in there. I guess it's either having the sound house know about you or is it CDPR? Is that what they're called? Yeah, CDPR themselves. Yeah, maybe they'll watch this and know that you need to be. You need to be part of the universe.
I know I think they're like in 2023 there was a news that they signed. They kind of in partnership with Anonymous Project, I think it's called.
Okay, Anonymous Content?
Anonymous Content,
yes,
yeah, Anonymous Content. And they're creating some live action.
I could see it because Edge Runners did very well on Netflix.
Yeah,
that was a very highly, and I enjoyed that. So I can imagine, and no doubt if they could, or if they don't do a side story, good old John Wick, can come be.
Idris Elba, John Wick.
Yeah, well, already.
Andrei Rogozin is available.
I was going to say, they do already have some quite big people that they could have.
Look, most scavs in the game were kind of Russian speakers. As I said, I can be a bad guy easily.
I wonder where they recorded. Or I wonder if they. I don't know.
There is nothing, no news since then, because in 2023 they said we're creating a project. No one knows if it's a feature, if it's a series, but it's still something live action. And since then, there were no news at all.
Right.
No news. I was auditioning last year. I did the self-tape for a film, and it said the character has artificial arm.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, oh my God, this is Cyberpunk, this is Cyberpunk. No, it was Neuromancer.
Okay, okay.
Look, I can talk about Cyberpunk for a very, very long
You're
time.
like, you
I'm
gotta-
pretty sure it's not what the viewers want. How do you deal with rejection? Because we all know rejection is a huge part of acting.
Yeah, I probably I try to, how do I call it, mentally think of it as can you imagine there's one year where every single audition you did, you booked? It would be like, that's the ultimate best case. Well, actually it wouldn't work because oftentimes I audition for things that conflict. So there's no way you could do everything. But I know that that's the baseline of like a fake, like, if that's the case, then obviously we have to have some no, like, you know, there's going to be no's. I don't find no to be a terrible thing because I also know how much of it is not in my control. The only thing I can control is just trying to do something I think either shows my point of view or fits the project well, or ideally both. And if I've done that as best I can, then I feel like it's I say like fishing. So I try to be zen and calm about it. And for a long time, actually, that has been fine. Yeah.
How much time did it take you to get to this mental state?
I think not being in LA helped for me. Not being surrounded by someone who's going, did you hear who booked that? You know who was casting? Or like, you know, this is happening, or like, that's just how everybody can be. For me, kind of probably with age, just realizing actually, you know, they always say what you bring is yourself. And it's like, well, what is me? What was myself? I'm a collection of whatever I've done the past 45 years in a sense, and the prejudices and views and everything that I have, and then the way I sound is the way I sound, all that stuff is my life. Somehow that makes my take for something different from someone else's. And part of what makes that life good is to live it, is to like go do other things. So I think nowadays I largely try to live my life, I guess, like live life. And then ideally the acting supplements or keeps me busy and grateful and happy to be in the things. And then I can still go do what I largely love, which is also traveling and eating and like enjoying time with my loved ones is the, I think, thing I try to go for. But yeah, it's funny you're saying that, because it was only quite recently I had a period that I think I was very used to having something else coming. And I suddenly had a point recently where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm hitting that point where there's nothing again in the future. It's been a while, but sometimes I think of it as like juggling, and I was like, oh wow, I'm like running out, the balls are running out. But eventually again, for me, because of the voice and video game stuff is come back. But yeah, I try to, it's tough, but I think if it's what you want to do, then, I mean, that's why I feel like I often hear many famous actors always tell their kids and stuff like, only do acting if it's what you feel you gotta do or you really must do. And I think it's a way of life that I feel like I love. So I love it, but it's unpredictable. You can't predict what it will do, but I have to accept that that's what I chose. So that's what I will attempt to enjoy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Because I've said to people before, if I could quit, I would.
Right.
But I can't. It's true. It's true. You just try to enjoy the moments when you get to play. And when you not, you just try to do something else.
Yeah,
like a podcast, for
you're doing the
example.
podcast.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I mean, we can talk more after this, but like, yeah, it's just, I guess the fisherman analogy is they're casting many lines out there, whatever there may be.
Yeah.
And it is funny to see what down the line, I guess, in my mind, what I have got to do is not necessarily what I imagined initially as an actor that I would be doing. I think when I first started, I really loved Al Pacino in The Godfather. I imagined shouting and Scarface and I don't know, something like that. And in the end, I have found various things that surprise me what I get to play, but largely even being on the CBB show Go Jetters as a little animated kind of thumb character that gets to go travel the world, and I'm the silly one that kind of optimistically dumb maybe in some ways, but I love it. I love that it's part of like this team that helps encourage travel, which is something I do believe is good. As you said about languages, I think traveling helps you open your eyes too. But yeah, again, I never knew that would be a thing.
Do you think you have a casting type?
I mean, in general, I'm sure from my height, my look, I have some type I can be, but I'm very surprised with some of the roles I get as well. But largely my main, most like me casting would probably be Japanese American that's decent at Japanese, but more American and more probably West Coaster, kind of Texas West Coast, Southern West Coast American is probably most me. But for example, there's a podcast called Central Intelligence that's out. I love these people, Gold Hawk Productions. They've put me in several of their podcasts. Actually, I won't talk about Central Intelligence. I was trying to think of one I could talk. There was one I did for them called Restart. It's on BBC Sounds, and they made me basically the main baddie. And the main baddie doesn't necessarily have anything to do with being Asian. I actually modeled him weirdly when I read the character. I thought, for some reason, it reminds me of Matt Reeves from the time I worked with him on The Batman. And I tried my best to imagine what I remember from Matt Reeves, which we shot during the pandemic. So this was the time when there was a time where he said, "Oh, hey, Akie." And I just had it looked like someone from E.T. with like a hazmat thing. And then I realized it was the director, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I didn't know," because of the goggles and the mask and everything. He's like, "Oh, yeah, no worries." But that voice, or his kind of voice and friendly demeanor, really, that he had, was such a good thing to have as the main baddie in this show about someone that kind of runs a digital detox camp, but really there's more nefarious purposes happening. It's for like teens that over game, they can get stuck in this camp, but something. So if you want to listen to it, it's called Restart.
All right.
I play the boss.
Yeah.
My guy's called the boss, and I never knew I'd get to do that. I don't imagine he's a Japanese American or anything to do with any of that.
How is the Batman?
That was a surreal one. When you introduced the podcast and you said Batman and Marvel, I was thinking it's funny that both those are also pandemic. Those were during the pandemic times.
Yeah.
But Batman was actually just before the pandemic. The main thing was, I remember getting a text message asking if it was okay for someone to give me a car or get me a car to take me somewhere for this audition all of a sudden. And it was just very surprising. I didn't expect it. I wasn't able to be told what it was until I signed everything. I signed all this stuff to then get to read this very small, quick scene. And I basically did that in an office with the producer, Dylan. And then I went straight to set that day.
Oh,
and
really?
and I didn't know why I didn't know why. I kind of got an idea from the gang members that they were very lovely. I loved working with them. I keep in touch with some of them to this day. But they kind of filled me in that there was some story, I don't really know, but someone could have dropped out of the role or got fired or I have no idea, something like that. And I just was an emergency solution. So they were like, had been rehearsing for a while and stuff, but I just suddenly was there. That's how it happened. And I remember initially like, yep, we're shooting here now in London, and in a couple months we're going to go to Chicago. And then I was like, oh, cool. That'll be cool. And then the lockdown happened. And so we did the rest much, much later in London. They built Chicago and London, basically.
That's so cool.
It also gave me a lot of appreciation for what you may go through to shoot a rain scene. It was in the rain, the scene that I was supposed to do. And London is cold, or can be cold, and we shot in cold times, and they gave us wetsuits underneath our wardrobe to try to help with the rain, but of course they can't be visible, so they might cut away. So my wetsuit was always filling up at the bottom. And the water, I remember after about, I don't know, maybe an hour of shooting, that the temperature would suddenly drop, and it was because the water had gone out of the water that was in the pipes inside, but to the water that's from outside, and outside is like winter. So it was like, just a super cold thing. And they take many takes. So it's a kind of quick moment in the thing, but it was quite a lot of takes. But it made me really look at other films I've seen, like Suicide Squad with Margot Robbie fighting someone in I forget, there's a fight scene that had something to do with rain. I was like, that stuff is hard.
And knowing Margot Robbie on Suicide Squad, I don't remember.
She was the crazy girl.
I remember her character. She was Harley Quinn. I just wondering about her costume in the scene. She might not have too much, to cover her to actually have a wetsuit.
So she would have just been getting rained on.
It's the problem that I've heard a lot of, stunt women performers. They don't complain about it, but they just say like it's a fact, because if you're a guy, you have a lot of you usually have cool jacket or something.
Then you can put the
where to hide your pads or padding and everything. We sometimes have short dresses, mini skirt, basically we're naked and we can't put pads anywhere. We just have to take it.
Just the rain, and then of course I didn't realize, but they often say this, but movie rain is probably the heaviest rain. You will to make it look like it rains. I've worked on some shows where it's been drizzling, and I'm like, oh, is that going to screw up the shot? Like, no. And then when I watch it, I'm like, you don't see the rain. You just don't see it. And I was like, oh, that I see. So I've not done that much with rain, but that and Andor more recently, I was like, the rain has to be thick, and for those droplets of water to be there. They really turn up the rain.
Tell me about Andor, because I gotta be honest, I haven't watched Andor. I know it's a sin, whatever, but it's a huge series. And a lot of people say it's one of the best things that currently exists in the Star Wars universe.
I really enjoy getting to be a small part of it. I didn't know what it was when I taped initially. And it was I'm in a kind of group scene, I guess. There's several of us, so I enjoyed getting to meet and work with this group of us, and Diego Luna is very nice as well. But I find that series, if you haven't seen it, even if you don't have Disney, you could get the trial and just binge both seasons, because what's brilliant is it's a 2-season thing, and then it just ends when is it episode? Oh, what's it called? Oh, it literally ends when the movie starts.
With Rogue One.
Yes, Rogue One. It ends, and it's kind of a brilliant. It really does kind of go right up to that moment, and it's just a great. It doesn't feel very Star Warsy when it's, especially when it begins in the beginning, and it's just a great series, I think.
Yeah. How was your experience?
Yeah, so that was very cool.
Because one thing that I know about Disney, Marvel, that no matter what you do with them, you signed 100 NDAs. You can't talk about anything ever. your kids, your wife, no one, your mother can't know that you're doing anything with Disney. How's your experience with that in general and the film?
I can imagine it's, especially before something comes out, it's the there are so many fans, right, that want to know. So you're not supposed to say anything, I guess. So thanks for reminding me of that. I was gonna say,
no, I mean,
but it
pre-filming, post-filming, you can talk about anything, whatever.
But I think the combination of getting to be part of that universe, and I guess maybe it's just, and I don't know, like each show can do different things. Like I'd love to one day say have worked on The Mandalorian or get to work in that type of volume they use where the camera moves and the background shifts. I've not, so that's an experience I'm still waiting to do, fishing for. But I loved there is a large chunk of Andor that was practical, which was cool because it kind of, in a sense, I somewhat felt like I was in Indiana Jones. I felt like I was in an Indiana Jones. And so certain things like to have a torch with a flame on it, like I never really think like, well, yeah, the torch, it can be heavy. And if you run with it in front of you, it can burn your face off. So you've got to put it on the side. And for safety, you only have it lit when it's a take. So that means every single time you have to put it down and take it down, and every single time you have to. So I think I'm like, oh, I can see how some people are like, well, we could just have a digital little stick that we put it on later, right? But I appreciated, I guess, what felt like real about it. And we were really traipsing around some muddy, swampy, rainy stuff.
I remember I was doing a SPAC job recently, and I was talking. I think there were like some stunt guys who worked on Andor. I'm not sure. I think like somewhere in the series there is this scene where stormtroopers are chasing people through the rye fields or so, like some fields.
Okay,
and it's kind of tall grass basically. And it's very hard to run in those stormtrooper. And they were saying like, so there's like, we just watching the rushes at some point because people just run and they start falling.
Oh no.
He says like there's like whole field that there is a play to us and we're running and just like it just because like less and less of us stay up because you're falling. And it's very hard to get up as well because the costume it's very bulky. just falling like this.
Oh no.
So they had to do quite a few takes.
Yeah, some of that costumes really reminds me how bulky. I've not been in a stormtrooper out, but you just reminded me of a time I got to be in a space suit thing, a real one. And I was like,
is it for Invasion?
Yes.
I haven't watched it yet. I know you were in it.
It's not, but I'm very briefly in there. But I remember I was like, oh yeah, if they don't feed me oxygen, this thing is actually aired. Like there was a machine that we had to be hooked into to have oxygen coming in. And I was like, it's like I never really realized how much you depend on other people. Like, it's so easy to just turn the machine off. Yeah. And then if no one helped me, I don't think I would be able to take the actual, it was, kind of surreal.
Yeah, there are so many things that like when you watch a movie, you don't even realize how much stuff is happening behind it for this to look real. Because I spoke to Nathan Wiley on the podcast as well. He was in Halo and he was one of those Spartans. And he said like they had these costumes, not the full metal costumes, but costumes that they have under. and it was so hot in them. They were like, he said, like, each of us had a person attached to us just to wipe the sweat off the floor because it was just dripping off from under the costume on the floor. And you never think about those things, but productions have to think about everything.
Yeah. And to
insane.
say, yeah. Actually, someone from my agency, Bentley Kalu, is one of the Halo regulars, I think, for season 1 at least, maybe 2. But yeah, what you're saying about the suits, I do remember hearing some stories. I think an old flatmate friend of mine, Omri Rose, got a part in film. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about it. And I remember, he was in some sort of suit, but I think he didn't want to like cause too much of a ruckus and didn't say too much. And there was a point where he was nearly like fainting because of how hot or stuffy the thing was. And I still remember, I don't know if you know of the fast food restaurant Jack in the Box.
No.
It's an American hamburger place. Their commercials always have this figure, Jack, who, I don't know how to explain it. He has like this weird, like a big circle face, cartoon face. And when I did a commercial with the guy, apparently they'd been using the same guy for quite a long time. Over all the commercials he'd done over the years, he was saying how he made small improvements to that thing. And so by the time I saw it, he was like, I've got a camera in there and we've got like a ventilation system. And I was like, it's slow. It's like Cyberpunk. It got slowly like fixed over time. But yes, movie production, must be tough, especially if they're like, we need 50 people in those stormtrooper, it's hard for them to think of all what could happen.
Very long time ago, I've heard about the famous Storm Pooper.
Storm Pooper?
Yeah,
what?
Because apparently those costumes are very hard to take off. And accident happened.
Oh, wow.
With the guy who was like, there is this legend that there was a guy who didn't, get enough time to...
Oh, I can...
I don't know if the story is true, but I've heard about it.
Right.
Look, you're in Silo. Huge series on Apple TV. I watched it recently, and again, like I messaged you at some point, like, dude, you're in Silo too.
Oh, right.
Tell me about it. How was your experience?
I remember at the time when I had a callback audition for what I didn't even know. It used to be called Wool. It wasn't called Silo. It's based on books by Hugh Howey. I think it's called the Shift Dust series, but I think the first book is called Wool. And it has to do with the wool used to clean the lens when the people go outside, which I really like that title, actually. But I remember when I had the callback for that, I was actually shooting a part for Wheel of Time where I had said I will shave half of my head. So I literally had half of my head shaved for this character. And I think I was in Prague for the fitting when I had the callback for Wool. And at the time I remember thinking, oh yes, okay, this guy, I think he just didn't have a name even. It was called a Watcher. And I thought, okay, it sounds kind of like a tech role I may have done in the past from Jack Ryan Tech Aid that looks at some monitors. But I think I got the idea. I'll make some eye lines like around. If that's the camera, then you can put all the lens stuff up there. And I talk to the person there, look at the lens there and say stuff. So I set up my laptop to do Zoom. And I kind of had preset where everybody's things could be. I do the scenes and then they said I got it. But at the time, I was actually quite excited about this really goofy, fantastical role I was doing for Wheel of Time, where I was called Turak's voice, and I was providing. It was like the royals don't speak; their voices speak for them. So they have these like kings and queens that stand there while the voice speaks, and so that whole concept, I was very into that world. And then they said, "You got this, Watcher thing." So I remember I came back from shooting on Wheel of Time back to London, and I showed up with a half-shaved head, and they just were like, okay, all we can do is match that. We just have to shave your head now, and we'll see where it can grow in the next like month and a half. So then I was like totally shaved, buzz cut, kind of shaved. And I was like, well, that's fine. It's just a, quick part to do. And then I'll let my hair grow back. Mm-hmm. And then I forget the details of how, but somehow they were like, no, who's playing Diego? And they're like, your name is now Diego, which I thought, oh, really? Okay. And it was such a shock that, after that happened, the casting said, great job in season 1. That's not usually, I don't usually get emails from casting. Kate Caldwell emailed that. I thought, oh, how nice. And then they just said, we want you back. And I was like, oh, what has happened? And it was cool. Like, it almost felt like a kind of office, like they're like, we'll bring you back. We'll give you a small pay raise and bring you back. Nothing has been said about the rest of the things, but I feel like Rebecca Ferguson said it's all wrapped, and it's been a great experience to be part of that world.
How was the filming? How was working with the people you worked with?
Really cool. I worked largely with Common or Rashid. I knew him from John Wick. I mean, when I say knew him, I knew of him. I always thought, ooh, he seems, I know he's a rapper. When I was a skateboarder growing up, my friends loved his music. I didn't listen to that much of the rap, so I didn't know it that well, but I knew they would trip out if I said I was, getting to film with Common. But on set, I think he went by Rashid, and he was way nicer than I was kind of expecting the scary dude I knew from John Wick a bit, and Hell on Wheels and all this. And he was actually, one of the nicest guys. So I was surprised how much he would hang out on this. There's like a tent off the set that you could just hang in, and he'd just be talking shop about, like, he seemed to just love the filmmaking process as much as, and look at it with the same wonder I could, which surprised me considering how much he's done. So season 1, I largely remember I worked with him, and he was kind of like my scary boss, was kind of the note I had as I played it. Because I mean, literally the first thing I say in this, like, oh, wow, we need to wake him up. Like, the other guy says it's like 3 a.m. I say, I know, but we need to wake him up. That's Common. That's like Common I'm talking, or Rashid I'm talking about. So I used to think of it that way, like the way I would play it against him. He's the big boss in my little universe. But season 2, I got to work with Tim Robbins, who is another person I've known all of them. I mean, I shouldn't say all of, but
he escaped from Shawshank.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption. Which I love Stephen King, so I knew the short story before I watched that movie. Brilliant movie. He's in just so much. I didn't chat about the wonders of film as much with him. He's more like, could just be like, I had a good weekend. I went to Wembley. I saw this concert or da-da-da. But he was nice in his own way. And I kind of left him alone for a good chunk of some of the early filming. But I remember after one day of sitting for a while, I asked if I could have a selfie with him, and that's the one thing I posted on Instagram. He's like, of course, and like got one, and then got one on the set, and so it was really nice to I guess get to see how they work. Both
anything you noticed in their approach that you kind of learn from them?
Tim, from watching the show, he has so much subtlety that maybe when I'm filming with him, I didn't know maybe all that he was doing, but he obviously had something cool planned that he was going about doing. And I feel like Rashid has his own like routine for how to get into things that was kind of endearing to watch and kind of be part of. But I want to leave it as that's his thing he does, which I think if you watch enough footage online, you can see like how, say, Jack Nicholson gets into character before The Shining, or how Gary Oldman gets into character before he played the in the Dark Knight,
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, Commissioner Gordon. Rashid has his own endearing thing he did that I used to enjoy.
Yeah.
Getting to be on set. And it's weird. Rebecca, I was in a scene with her in season 1. I don't think I saw her in season 2. So, yeah, but she seemed cool, but I didn't work with her so much in those times.
I gotta say, man, look, Apple, when they announced that they are launching their own streaming service, I felt like, oh, come on.
I know.
Do we need another one? Well, what will the guys, what do you know about? But honestly, they produce cool shit. Most, like a lot of the shows that I watch at the moment, or I watched in the last few years, are from Apple. Slow Horses, great. Yeah. Ted Lasso, amazing. I love Ted Lasso. Shrinking. They do Foundation is them as well, right?
Yes.
They do some very, very good stuff, and they do some good sci-fi as well.
Yeah,
which is nice because they're like, I don't think we have enough of sci-fi.
It seems like it's growing slowly here and there. I did watch something recently that I feel like it flew under the radar called Drops of God. It's really, and when you talk about when you were talking about different languages, it's a show that's in English, French, and Japanese. And it was surprisingly good. If you dig it up, it's just, I think I haven't watched season 2, but season 1, I was quite like surprised that I didn't think I would like this show, but it was largely about this kind of French daughter or young woman who her dad, she didn't really have contact with her dad, but her dad was a very successful wine person. He had created like a book about tasting wine, and he's terminally ill. So she goes to visit him, and he's set up, when she gets there, he finds that she's set up some sort of test to see who's going to get his inheritance. And it's either her or this random Japanese dude who's like been working with the dad the whole time. And the only thing is when she was a child, she had a very good sense of taste, but it's not like something she followed. So it's basically about like wine tastings, which sounds kind of like, why do I care? I don't care about any of this. But surprisingly, I got into it, and I think they did a really good job of how to describe the tastes behind something how to make it interesting to watch someone take a sip of something and what they could be thinking because of that. Like they use just the way they filmed it, but I was thinking even how the actors must have to act is a certain challenge to do that very well, to be able to take a sip of some liquid and deliver a monologue about that. What about the taste is so cool, but it was surprisingly good.
I gotta give it a try.
Yeah, if you have Apple. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. When I finish another rewatch of 1883, maybe.
Oh, is that on Apple?
No, it's Paramount. It's Paramount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, have you watched it?
Isn't that the Yellowstone spinoff with Helen Mirren?
Yeah, it's a prequel, but to be fair, like you don't need to know anything about Yellowstone to watch 1883. It's a separate story. And when I watched it the first time, I had no idea. Like I never tried the Yellowstone.
Because Yellowstone's the Kevin Costner one, and 1883's got Helen Mirren. Is that right?
No. It's 1923 with Helen Mirren. That one. I forgot their names.
Harrison Ford?
No, Harrison Ford is with Helen Mirren in 1923. But basically, 1883 is a prequel about how this Dutton family, how they got where they got.
Okay.
Because Yellowstone happens in Montana. And but it's basically about the travelers, this family, Dutton family. They're part of this huge group of people who go from Texas to Oregon.
Right. Okay.
Chasing the dream, basically.
For some reason, I watched a little bit of Yellowstone. Yeah. I remember seeing all those spin-offs, and I felt like, oh man, I just haven't gotten. Like there's so much of that.
I mean, look, they're all a separate thing. I should say one thing, like 1883 is probably one of the best things I've seen in my life.
Really? Okay.
Honestly, it's one season. It has like start and finish. You don't need to know anything about everything else.
I'll have to.
And it's just amazing. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
I'll have to remember that.
It's about the basically people chasing a dream, and they're running into reality.
Right. I see. Okay.
Reality of that America, that's the young America, when people just trying to find free land.
Right.
And everything that comes with it.
Eminent domain.
Yeah.
I have a flag. This is my land.
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard has that joke. Like, I forgot. That's something totally different. There was some film I think it's called Train Dreams this year, kind of about, it's about the railroad experiment with Joel Edgerton. But I'll remember 1883. Maybe I
give it a go.
that.
Well, when you watch it, let me know what you think, because I can't say that everything ends well for everyone in this series.
But I'll come.
This travel to Oregon is filled with tragedy. And love and everything. It's just
and it's the travel to Oregon. It reminds me. Did you ever play a computer game called Oregon Trail?
No.
When I was really young, like at 10 or something, that was like the game. Our school let us play it. It was like this really basic game, but you just get yourself to Oregon and you have like your family, your horses, or you're in your wagon. But you can like get people sick, or it's like you'll have a river you have to cross. Do you ford
there you
it?
go.
There you
those
go. Kind of things.
You know everything. Because there is even like the crossing the river is a challenge, because most of those people, they came from the place where it's not allowed to swim. So they can't swim. And it's just everything. Then they come there like, well, and then the guys who lead them, they ask like, where is your weapon? Where are your weapons? Like, do we need them? Like, do you need them?
Oh, right.
So it's amazing. It's amazing. It shows all of it. Anyways, stop it, Andre.
Okay.
Look, what would be your most favorite project that you were a part of?
I loved it in the beginning. I miss how excited I did an independent film called The Achievers, directed by a guy named Abraham Lim at my first year in LA, actually. The same year I did that commercial. It was a brilliant year because I did the commercial and I did this little film. Randall Park was in this film, Tim Chu, Samantha Kwa, Baldeep Parahar, just this group of people, but Randall has gone to become quite big. Samantha is married to the guy who did Andor. Now it's kind of surreal to know them from so long. But when we did that film, this was when the SAG-AFTRA union in the States had a deferred pay indie film thing. So basically, I did it for no money. It was like a low budget thing that I think they had $75K to make this film, and we were paid on deferred pay. We never got paid, but I made such great friends. It was my first year in LA. I stayed over at people's houses. We all went karaokeing together. The crew and the actors like hung out, which they said was unheard of, or not unheard of, but not that normal. But because everyone, I think, was so new and just so happy to be on a film set. A bunch of people came to LA, and then they're all on a film set and relatively new to it all. So I find that was a nice experience in my life. And I was one of the 4 or 5 main people. I was playing some stoner guy. I used to have bleached hair. Have this nice silly monologue I think is in my first acting reel at the time. I feel like I love that movie is called The Achievers. It's about people trying to achieve something, in a sense. And I loved, that time of everything being so new, I guess. So I think I would say that was one that will stick with me. In the same time, I'm pinching myself to think of various things like getting to do 64 shows with Michael, Shannon, Ruth Wilson, David Threlfall, Peter Corboy. Just, why am I here? How can I be here? Like, there's times where I'll feel that way, or,
sharing screen with Orlando Bloom and Gran Turismo.
Yes, actually, I love District 9. So it was so cool to get to meet Oh, wow, his name just escaped me. Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so many. That was a great, great time. I got to spend like about 5 weeks in Budapest and Austria, go to race tracks. I wasn't even on set that often, so actually I got a lot of time to just hang out.
Nice.
I guess. But I loved that he had a kind of way of shooting where you almost didn't know where the camera was sometimes, because he would use such long lenses. In a sense, it just felt like you're just almost doing a documentary in sometimes. I wasn't there for a lot of the race car days, which sounded like they were much more focused. But yeah, seeing David Harbour, Orlando Bloom, what they do, that was a good one. Yeah, I remember that, but I would say I remember that one was nice that I had so many days off on a location. So I don't know if I could say that was so much because of the set. My girlfriend came to visit. We went to sightseeing amidst the shoot. Well, sightseeing, but staying close to Budapest. But I liked my time on that. I don't know. I have so many. I loved, I still have to say Joe Lynch's Everly, one of my first films in the UK with Salma Hayek. I was number 2 on that call sheet, but really, there's a big gap between number 1 and number 2, I would say, Salma's role. But that was a fun kind of action horror film, and it was a very interesting experience in a nice way. And Joe's a really cool guy, so it was nice to get to know him. He actually has a podcast called The Movie Crypt, which he gets various filmmaker friends and actors to come talk. And he's had me on his at one point, which is a surprise, because again, I feel like he has so many people that do much, much more than I do. That was, that was also cool to do. But so I don't think I feel like I have just one.
It seems like you did a lot of cool stuff.
I'll go back to it. I mean, there was a time I did a film that ended up having the title Midgets VS Mascots, which the first M word I said is not a nice word, so I don't like saying it. And after working with these little people, which is more correct, we didn't know that would be the title when we did the film. But it's got a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, but we had Gary Coleman. It's got Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent Bob, Scottie Pippen in the movie. And they were basically, it was the time when Jackass was a really popular show, and they wanted to make a raunchy mockumentary comedy Jackass style. And I'll say, when we were talking about costumes, basic premise of that was people had to do various challenges to try to win some inheritance. Kind of like Drops of God, but totally, totally different. Some of these challenges involve chugging a gallon of milk, which is not really possible because you puke.
Yeah.
They did this for real. That was a memorable moment for the stench and just the craziness that followed. You can find that clip if you look it up online. I played the ref, who was supposed to be from China. Everything about this film is so I have a really thick, fake Chinese accent. But it was a heck of an interesting time. And there was one challenge where someone had to run in a Zorb, which is a huge plastic ball on the highway. This film had a little bit of some money behind it. So we have a dude in Texas. We shot this in Texas. This is in 2008, right after Mad Men, or right before, around that time, running in a big plastic bowl that was melting, because it's so hot in Texas, and I feel like he nearly died of heat exhaustion. They got him out of there in time. But in that same show, there was a point in that show where I was supposed to address a crowd at a rodeo. I remember, because I had a little speech I had set up to introduce the challenge they were doing, which is, I think, rodeo poker, it's called, where a bull comes charging, but whoever can stay standing playing poker in the middle of the bull ring till the last will win. this is the kind of film I'm sure it can be found somewhere, but I remember I was set up to do this speech to this crowd. Now, of course, this film didn't quite have the budget of, say, like Gran Turismo, so it wasn't like a huge crowd, but they set it up so a small crowd to look like a huge crowd. I'm getting ready to say my little speech, and I feel this thwack on my head. And it was another castmate, but this was like encouraged in this show. This other castmate had hit me on the side of the head with a piece of cow dung they had picked up off the ground. So it's like probably stuck in my hair a little. And I just, luckily I didn't break the character and just went, oh, he's so funny. Anyway, I do my speech now, my little thing. I would say that was probably not the nicest thing, but the emotions I felt were real. And looking back on it now, I find it was a very memorable time from this milk chug that some of the actors chose not to do because they didn't want to vomit, but some did do it. Yeah. And it was crazy some of the various things that were done on that was memorable. And I don't remember I signed any NDA on that, so I think I can talk. And yeah, it's called Midgets vs Mascots. I'm sure it can still be rented somewhere.
Look, it's so fun. So fun. Is there anything dream project for you?
Ooh, I keep hoping. I don't know. I keep loving the idea of not really knowing, but no. At the beginning, it was Al Pacino-ish type thing, shouting somewhere. I don't think that's the case. I feel like the dream is to just get to keep doing it, if anything.
And look, you work with quite some big names. Who stuck with you in terms of you liked to work with the most, and who is there out there who you would love to work with in the future?
I'll say Rashid or Common was really nice to work with on Silo. So is the title Rebecca. Yeah. It's easier to actually say, I don't want to. Who I don't want to work with anymore. Yeah. I don't want to say, or who was not as easy to work with, I guess. But going back to John Hamm was very nice in Mad Men. I think he thought I looked a bit lost at one point. I was like, you want to read the lines? And so I just, yeah, sure. It was very kind of him he didn't have to do that. So I remember that being nice. But overall, I think what I've noticed is most people are maybe I've just been really lucky, but a lot of who I've worked with are quite nice. And so to all the nice ones, I've appreciated it.
Is there someone out there who you haven't worked with yet and you really want to?
Since I've been saying it, probably it would be the two that I thought of when it was Al Pacino and De Niro. The two I thought of a long time ago. I mean, everyone's older now. Yeah. But gosh, if they're going to remake Heat and put them in there, if I could somehow be like the random extra next to them, I guess I could technically have a line. I don't know. Now I realized how hard some of the great people work at. So I think anyone that kind of, just by being around them, it kind of ups your game. If I would like to work with, but I've had friends who've worked with people like, say, Tom Cruise, and said great things about him, or just how nice he was. Some of those things, it's like I feel like I hear so much news about someone like that makes me want to meet them myself just to see. And often it makes me think to not read those tabloid things, because lots of times I think it's just clickbait. It may have no basis in reality whatsoever. So I appreciate getting to meet anybody, well-known or not, but well-known, to maybe dispel some myths about them or not. I can say, actually, back to I don't know if you know who Gary Coleman was. He's sadly passed away now. He was a littler person actor from a show called Different Strokes in the States.
No, I don't
was
think so.
quite famous for being a child actor. And I think his parents mismanaged his money he had made as a child. He didn't really have much of his own money from the time he did the show. But there were lots of, in the States, he was quite well known, and there were lots of stories of how angry he could be. But when I met him, I realized he had to have dialysis every 3 days or so. And I realized after meeting him, every time he had the dialysis done, he would be, I guess, quite normal, quite friendly. And slowly, a day 2, day 3, he could kind of become more grumpy or bad-tempered. And I started thinking, because he was kind of known for being like, they were like, oh, he can just throw a fit for no reason. And I started thinking, I bet people that just read those news things never knew that he did dialysis, nor that maybe that was just the effect of being day 3 that caused some of the things. Like I think he punched a security guard somewhere. You know, there's all these little just things. But yeah, I guess I don't have one specific person, but I think there's just many great people who work very hard, and I love to work with all the ones that work very hard. Yeah. But I mean, Al Pacino is such a character. From what I've seen from afar from TV, it would just be surreal to see him. And
Al Pacino, when we all were growing up, he was one of the biggest stars in the world. And I'm not sure if he's as known right now by young, like
maybe
your
not.
generations.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's not as much in it anymore. But yeah, it would be a dream.
Do you have a dream person? I was just thinking.
No, I mean, look, working with Tom Cruise would be great. There's too many. I barely worked with anyone, to be fair. I barely worked in general. But the biggest, I mean, like, I would really love to work with Paul Giamatti. I don't know, I love him. I love him since from the Billions, and obviously he did a lot of stuff before, but like first time when I really noticed him, when I watched Billions, I was like, oh my God, he's amazing.
Right.
This dude has such an amazing presence, and he is just, so yeah, him.
Yeah, I could imagine that he probably is someone who does a lot of work and probably surprise you with what he does, but I don't know him.
Do you think you have a mission in life?
A mission? No. Personally, selfishly, I just always liked the idea of being I shouldn't say, since I wanted to be an actor, I liked the idea of being in TV and films and video games, and so I'm very grateful to be doing those. And as a kid, I had a mission to be a pro skater. I don't think that's ever, in my 40s now, I don't think I can just jump into that. And whenever I look at clips now, I feel like people look like AI robots. Just they're landing everything. It's
my knees would be shattered.
Oh yeah, that too. But just the level of what they land is mad. But I guess when you said mission in life, I also have always grown up around music. I would say it's one of my main hobbies I can do other than play games. I used to say I had a mission to make a CD of my music. I had no CD, so an album. So I guess if I had a mission in life I'd like to give myself, it would be eventually, one way or another, I'll make my album.
Nice.
And perhaps, like any craft you do, hopefully it doesn't have to be anything big, or anyone doesn't even have to listen to it. I might put it on YouTube or whatever for free, but it will be whatever in my life I created, various songs or songs I like that I want to cover. Maybe that's my mission, but overall it's to have a night. I used to say, actually, to my dad, my dad used to say, it's always good to be productive, or to be a productive member of society. So if I think of it that way, productive member of society, I love when you're, I guess, part of films, in a sense, I feel like I'm part of some entertainment. And
which is important.
those things, yeah. And luckily, one thing I do like about they do exist. In a sense, they can disappear into the digital ether, but there is a copy of it that exists. While a play, you usually have to watch the play, and then once the performance is done, unless it's archived, even if it's archived, it's very hard to find.
Yeah. And to watch, to be fair.
Yeah. I know, I kept saying, so yeah, the Moon for the play I did this summer was done with Kevin Spacey maybe 10 years ago. And they said they have put it in the archives. So I remember I used to tell the cast, I was like, one day I'm going to go to the archives. It's in one of the museums. I forgot which one now. And you have to request a time, but you can go watch the old play if you want. Technically, our play was also filmed and archived. And I was like, okay, but I haven't done it. I mean, it's a 3-hour long thing, but I hope to do it, actually. I just want to see what the actor did in my role.
Yeah.
Very different actor. And it's very surreal to see, like, at the time that Kevin Spacey did that play, I think it was at the National, they said, my friend that I'm good friends with now, Leo Ashizawa, he said he had just moved to London at the time, and he just knew of Kevin Spacey, so he had watched that. And Ruth Wilson from that play was like, I just got out of drama school. I remember I thought it was a bit boring. She said that. But now she's starting, like this. It's like, wow, that's how it comes full circle.
Yeah. Second question. What would be a piece of advice, universal advice, that you would give to anyone? Doesn't matter where they are and what they do.
I used to think to say don't give up right away, but I was thinking maybe, as I was saying my fisherman analogy before, my piece of advice would be no one cares more about your life than yourself. So you have to nurture it yourself and also enjoy it yourself, because no one else will enjoy your life as much as you can. I used to think of that fisherman analogy, but another analogy I used to say is it's like a roller coaster ride too, with its ups and downs. But I'm on my own roller coaster ride. You're on your own roller coaster ride. It's important to enjoy the roller coaster that you have.
Yeah.
So I guess to anyone, that would be my thing, is to know that, yeah, it kind of sounds selfish to say, but I would say, yeah, to enjoy your own roller coaster ride.
All right. Before our closing tradition, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
No, just the message last night you said for me to think of something, which I did think of. Yeah.
Well, then the closing tradition that is called lasting words.
Lasting words.
Lasting words.
Yes.
Is it's a quote or a phrase that affected you, something that you maybe read in a book or heard in a song or heard from someone close to you, or just a billboard suddenly clicked with you and changed your perception of the world, or just stuck with you.
I thought about this since you asked me. And I'm going to go with the first thing that popped into my mind, even though I didn't know how relevant it would be. And it was something my dad once said in Japanese to me. I forget what I was doing, but he went, gojuppo hyappo, which I was like, the heck does that mean? Gojuppo hyappo. And he said 50 steps versus 100 steps. I actually Googled this now to double check what. So the literal translation maybe would be 50 steps laughing at 100 steps. This still doesn't make any sense. He said there was a story once of people who were at war and they were losing. So the soldiers ran away, but some ran away 50 steps and some ran away 100 steps. And the ones that ran away only 50 steps started to make fun of the ones who ran away 100 steps because they had run away further. The end. And I went, okay, what is that? what? And but it stuck with me actually, and it was an English equivalent, according to Google Gemini, is I think it's saying the pot calling the kettle black, if that makes any sense. But it had to do with both ran away, and yet one person's making fun of the other for their shortcoming of retreating. I don't really know. What I like about it is it's just a simple story, but whatever it makes you think is the takeaway that I've kept. And then in Japanese, it's very short, just 50 steps, I guess laughing at 100 steps. Literally in Japanese, 50 steps, 100 steps. So that would be my random story.
Cheeky, interesting. Now you make me think about it. So basically, anyone can take away from this phrase whatever they.
If you use, well, I use Google nowadays for everything, but I did it just to double check that I wasn't saying the story correctly. But they give you the explanation of why that is relevant. But I like that my dad just told me the story. And I went, Dad, you're so weird. I don't know what you're talking. Like 50 steps, 100. I don't have any idea what in the world that means, but it's obviously stuck with me since I was a child. Yeah,
it's amazing. How big is Japan in your life? I think because you're going there from time to time, right?
Recently, I went quite a few times because my dad, in his older age, seems to like it back there more, but he's been in the States for quite a long time.
And you lived there for a year, right? Because the thing is, I've never been to Japan. I would love to go to Japan. I think it's amazing. It's very expensive though, and right now I can barely afford breathing. Going to Japan is very different. But to me, and I think to a lot of Europeans and people who don't know much about Japanese or Eastern culture in general, it's almost like a little bit like a different planet in many ways, because the culture is like, there is a lot of similarities because we're all human beings, but it's the same time, it's very different culture. And I'm just curious, like how much of it is in your life, and how often do you go in Japan? What do you like about it?
I wouldn't say it's an entirely different world. It's still the world as I know it. But yeah, culture-wise, I think it's a society that overall learned a very polite way to let lots of people exist in a kind of decent fashion by thinking of others, which is actually what a lot of actor things say is, if you can make your partner shine, then you will shine. But it's like a society that, in a sense, kind of thinking about others when you do things, why you do anything is like for everyone's sake, which is a very, it makes for it to feel quite nice, I guess, to be there. They can still be OCD and very specific, but then with that, things are largely very on time. I remember being there recently and then being on this bus that kept taking like a minute to leave each bus stop. And I slowly realized it's because they had scheduled the time for it to leave on time. Like it didn't just leave when it got there. They would wait and it would leave at the time it meant to leave. And I was like, hey, it's not the fastest way actually then. But it does mean if you're running to catch a bus, you can look at the schedule and it should be there. Yeah. Or it should leave at the time that it's meant to leave. Okay. Never thought of doing it that way. But yeah, so I do like it. And recently, last year, my friend had a wedding. And so that turned into a trip last year. And then my dad has kind of got a place. So I went in the spring. And then the year before, I had never been to northern Japan. So I went to Hokkaido. So in the last year and I did go there quite often. But usually I don't go that often. So maybe it has more, or my heritage somewhere deep in my blood has come out a bit more recently, but I used to not think of it that much at all. So I don't know. I do think I do love when I go back to Japan now. I'm like, I can just use my phone and not think someone will steal it. In fact, I could probably put it down and someone may give it back to me. Like, that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
I will say. Yeah.
How often do you go back to America?
Recently, hasn't been, I think 2 years ago, I went to visit my brother, who's a pilot who lives in near San Francisco. He's got a family up there. They're actually coming to visit for the first time here next month. So I'm looking forward to taking them around and doing some very touristic London and Paris things that I've never been on the London Eye.
Yeah,
but we're going. I'm like, yes, you guys want to go on the London Eye? Okay. Yeah,
neither did I. No. It's just like it's too expensive. The queue is huge.
Precisely. So, but yeah, doing all those. Big Ben, London, gosh knows, London Tower Bridge, whatever.
And how different for you is America and the UK? The biggest cultural differences.
I like the mix of things in London. I mean, I know London more than I know the UK, I would say. This mishmash of, so many different people from all over. I imagine New York could be kind of similar with more, maybe people from more like South America mixed more. From my limited time in New York, I saw a lot more like Dominican Republic or, like South American countries than I did so much like Russian or Indian or something like that, or African. But I'm sure that everyone is everywhere. So I wouldn't think there's that much difference to say New York, but I grew up in middle America where you need a car basically to get around. They're quite different, but I appreciate having had both ways. There's a lot more space, especially in like Texas. I hear Austin's a bigger city than when I was there, but there's with more space, everything's bigger. So then you could think about things like, I just want a boat to stick on my pickup truck to go to the lake, kind of way of being. But I like walking, and I like the way cities can have hidden little things that you find from walks.
Yeah.
So personally, and also I like just the idea of, I feel like I'm overall not spewing as much carbon dioxide into the air as when I was driving around with my friends in their Ford Mustangs and Z71s in Texas or their 87 Camaro. But yeah, there's good to both, I guess.
All right. Is there anything that we should expect next from you? Do you think anything in the pipeline for you right now?
I'm working on, the fishing, I'm luckily, voice-wise, I've been on several games, and nowadays they all have their code names, but I feel like I'm, just working through a couple games, I'm doing an audiobook the day before my brother comes through this other site that I could mention. Yeah, I'll mention to you. It's called ahabtalent.com. It's a US site set up by some Penguin Random House publishers or producers for audiobook casting, but you have to like record a chunk of a book, and if they want you, then they put you in there. They came to me for one that I don't think I can say any more about it, but it's a quick one, so I thought I'll do that. So yeah, book, video games. Luckily, those audio drama podcasts, I think that's it. And some crowd. I did some crowd work, but no filming. Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you or just follow your journey?
My website is akie-kotabe.com, which is AKIE minus KOTABE.com. Otherwise, that same name, Akie Kotabe, at almost all the old socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I have those. I don't have, and YouTube. They can be followed quite easily, I think, on all those. LinkedIn. I was at something recently where someone was like, here's my LinkedIn. I was like, LinkedIn? Well, I mean, I'm sure it's you, but I was too used to mostly Instagram, and then I keep thinking there's people that have TikTok and stuff. I don't really have those, and I don't, to be honest, I don't do that much. So I'm not that exciting online. What I do,
I don't know. I think you post a lot of photos from I know, like productions and your travel and some food, and
I try as an actor. I have a Facebook acting page called Akie-Kotabe.com. I think it's Facebook-Akie Kotabe acting. I think is the I don't actually know. Not that many people follow it, but that's where I'm supposed to be posting acting stuff. Instagram is kind of supposed to be more like my travel photo album, but occasionally when something comes up that I'm allowed to say, I dig up some photos, which I'll show you some of these cool photos that I can't show online yet. I show them when I can, but it's given me years. Yeah.
Right, dude. Thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you.
so nice to talk to you.
You too.
If you enjoyed the conversation, as always, subscribe, like, comment, leave your comments. What do you think about Akie's journey? Bye.
See you. Thanks again.